My sister didn't invite me to her wedding because I'm adopted, but my parents are asking me to mature and help them pay for her wedding debts. That's not going to happen. My name is Sydney, I'm 27 years old and I live a good life on my own. It's a life I've built with a lot of effort and with the support of my fiancé Luke. You're probably wondering what's going on with my family. Well, I haven't had the best relationship with them. In fact, they are the reason I'm here seeking advice. Let me give you some context before explaining why I'm writing. As I mentioned, my relationship with my family has never been good. It's complicated, and it's been that way for as long as I can remember. I was adopted by the Sensons because they couldn't have children of their own, but it was always clear they didn't love me for who I am. They just wanted to fill the void of not having a child. Don't get me wrong, I'm not ungrateful. I truly appreciate that they chose me and gave me a slightly better life than I would have had in the orphanage. But when you really analyze it, it wasn't that different. Still, during the first few years of my life, things were okay, actually good. I wasn't spoiled, but I also didn't lack love, and that was enough for me. It was much more than I had in the orphanage, so I was content. But everything changed when I was about 4 years old. My mom miraculously got pregnant, and suddenly everything was different. I don't remember the exact moment, but I know I felt like I became invisible overnight. They were excited about the new baby, my younger sister Janice. I was happy to be a big sister, of course, but from the moment she was born, I felt like I no longer existed. It hurt a lot. They never said it directly, but it was painfully obvious they didn't want me anymore. It was as if I had just been a replacement until Janice arrived and took her rightful place in the family. I started to feel like a mistake, an inconvenience they had to live with. I was just a little girl who wanted to feel loved and important. It was devastating. I tried to keep things as they were, to be close to them, but the more I tried, the more they pushed me away. It's not that they were cruel to me. They still paid for my things, but it was clear they did it out of obligation, not love. The emotional abandonment and the feeling of being unwanted left scars that will probably never heal. Even Janice, whom I loved and thought was good, treated me like a stranger. She was just a baby when she came into my life, but as she grew, it became obvious she didn't see me as part of the family. She barely acknowledged me, and when she did, it was with the same indifference you'd show a neighbor you don't care about. Growing up feeling like a burden was incredibly difficult. That's why, as a teenager, I started distancing myself from my family. It was just easier that way. I spent more time alone or with friends because I knew I wasn't going to get the love and attention I needed from them. Sometimes I even thought it would have been better if they had never adopted me. I felt like they had taken me in just to ignore me, and that hurts a lot. I don't know what's worse. Not having a family at all, or having one that doesn't care if you exist. For me, the latter was worse because I lived with the constant pain of not being wanted. So as soon as I turned 18, I moved out and away from them. I didn't cut ties completely. We still talk and I visit them during the holidays, but I've always kept them at a distance. I've built a life I'm proud of, even if it's not tied to the family I grew up with. My fiancé Luke has been my rock. He has given me the love and support I always wanted and has shown me what it really means to have a family. Fast forward to the present. Now I live in a different city with Luke. We're happy, independent, and building a future together. My relationship with my parents is still distant, but I've accepted it. That doesn't mean the void they left in my heart has disappeared, but I've learned to live with it. Recently, things have taken an unexpected turn. Janice got engaged to a guy named Peter, and now suddenly my family is communicating with me. They want me to help with the wedding preparations and even with the costs. My parents have been sending me messages asking me to participate and attend the wedding. They're presenting it as a family event where my presence is important. Janice, on the other hand, hasn't said much, but my parents insist. They try to make it seem like we should all come together for her big day. I'm confused and honestly a little hurt. The same family that made me feel like I didn't belong is now asking me to be part of something so important. I haven't had a deep conversation with Janice since we were kids. She's never shown any interest in me as a sister, and now they expect me to act like everything is fine, like the years of emotional neglect never happened. Although I still visit my family on holidays and important occasions, I've spent most of my life trying to protect myself from the pain they caused me. The idea of getting involved in something that could reopen old wounds feels strange. On the other hand, I know that Janice is my sister. Even though we never connected as such, a part of me wonders if this is her way of trying to build a relationship with me. Even if she isn't doing it consciously, maybe this is exactly what I need to finally have the family I've always wanted. Maybe it's the way to fill the void in my heart. Here I am stuck and I need your advice. Should I help with the preparations and take this as an opportunity to fix things with my family, or should I continue protecting myself as I have all this time? Luke thinks I should help only if I really want to. He tells me it's my decision, but that it could be an opportunity to reconnect with them. He has always supported me and understands where I'm coming from, but I still can't help but feel conflicted. So here I am today, asking for your advice. Is it worth trying? Or should I keep my distance? I'll update you on what happens. It's been a few weeks since my initial post, and I wish I had good news. I really thought things would be different this time. But here I am furious, venting to a group of strangers and realizing I've been a complete fool. Honestly, I don't even know how it happened, but I let myself get caught up again by this toxic family. Deep down, maybe I wanted to believe that they finally cared, that maybe they would finally recognize my worth and we could start fixing things. Well, spoiler alert. They didn't. After writing here, I spent a few days reading the comments and thinking about what to do. Many of you were understanding and encouraged me to try, while others were blunt in calling me stupid for even considering it. I wish I had listened to them. As you probably guessed, I decided to help my family with the wedding preparations. Yes, I know I should have trusted my instincts or listened to those who told me to stay away, but I thought that maybe this was their way of trying to reconnect with me. I didn't expect miracles or some big family moment, but if they were reaching out, shouldn't there be some sincerity behind it? Well, I was wrong. This is what happened and why I'm so furious that I don't know what to do other than vent here. After telling my parents I was willing to help with the wedding, everything seemed fine for a while. My parents acted more attentive than they had been in my entire life. My mom even hugged me when I agreed to help, and I can't even remember the last time she did something like that. It was something I had longed for so long that, like the emotional fool I am, I let my guard down. I thought maybe they were trying to make up for all the years of neglect. I should have known it was too good to be true. As the plans progressed, I even managed to bond with Janice in a way we never had before. For the first time, it seemed like she recognized me as her sister. It felt good, like a dream come true. But just when I thought everything was going well, things started to get weird. Janice started asking me for money. At first, they were small things, extra money for decorations or a deposit for the venue. She always made it sound urgent, as if I didn't pay immediately, she'd lose the reservation. She told me she had a big payment coming up and promised she'd pay me back a few days later. I went along with it without thinking much about it. Money isn't a problem for me, and I didn't mind helping my sister. But deep down, I still felt a little skeptical about all this. Every time I hesitated, Janice would show up with her charm and assure me that everything was temporary, that she would pay me back soon, and that she really wanted me to be a part of her wedding. For the first time, I felt included, like the older sister I had always wanted to be. It's almost embarrassing to admit how much I craved that. So yes, I ended up making some large payments. Financially, it didn't affect me much. But emotionally, I couldn't help but feel unsure if any of this was genuine. Still, I kept going, thinking I was helping my family and contributing to my little sister's wedding. Then the bomb dropped. It was right after almost all the preparations were ready. Janice told me I couldn't attend the wedding. After helping her create this perfect wedding, she dropped on me that I simply couldn't be there. Her reason? She wanted the wedding to be for blood family only, and since I'm adopted, she said it wouldn't be appropriate for me to attend. I felt like I had been struck by lightning. I stood there, stunned, trying to process what I was hearing. Blood family only. As if I hadn't been there for her since the day she was born. As if it wasn't me who had been helping her this whole time, who had financially saved her wedding. Suddenly, all the insecurities of my childhood resurfaced. It was then that I realized the truth. They never wanted to reconnect or fix things with me. They just wanted to use me, and now that they got what they needed, they were discarding me. They've always been like this. I was the idiot who thought things could change. I allowed myself to be used and then discarded as if I were worthless. So without saying a word, I left. I didn't speak to Janice or my parents. I didn't even look back. I walked out furious, and I still am. Part of me is angry with them, but another part is even angrier with myself for having allowed this to happen. I should have known. I should have trusted my instincts. But no, I let myself be fooled by a fairy tale where they finally loved me. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'm absolutely completely done with them. I'm sick of their lies, of being the forgotten daughter, the one they only remember when they need something. And now I'm planning something. I don't know if it will work, but they're not going to get away with this. They think they can treat me like trash and move on like nothing happened? Well, no. That's over. They can carry on with their lives. Well, now they'll have to face the consequences. I'll keep you informed once I put my plan into action. Until then, goodbye. Update. Hi, it's Sydney again. It's been a few days since my last update. Let's just say things have gotten interesting, or rather, karma finally did its thing. The wedding was a few days ago, and guess what? My phone hasn't stopped ringing since then. Yes, it's my parents calling non-stop. But no, they're not calling to apologize or admit that what Janice did was wrong. Instead, they're calling to ask me for help. Why? Well, apparently Janice is drowning in debt, and somehow they think it's my fault. Remember I mentioned I was planning something after the Blood family fiasco? Well, I decided that if Janice wanted to use me and then throw me away like garbage, she would have to face the consequences of her actions. When I calmed down enough to act rationally, I went and canceled all the reservations I had made for her wedding. Every deposit, every payment, everything. Part of the money I had spent was refunded to me. But of course, not everything was refundable. I didn't care. That was the price I was willing to pay for Janice to understand that she couldn't play with me. Once I canceled the main arrangements, everything started to fall apart quickly. The perfect wedding I had helped plan went down the drain. When Janice realized what I had done and saw that everything was falling apart, she started running around trying to rearrange everything at the last minute. Because of the rush, she ended up paying much more than she had originally spent. Desperate, she had to take out a huge loan to cover the costs. Now she's up to her neck in debt because she thought she could use me and get away with it. Needless to say, the wedding was an absolute disaster. Yes, she got married, but it was nothing compared to the perfect event I had helped plan. Everything was so improvised and disorganized that, according to what I've been told, it turned out to be a total circus. Janice was completely embarrassed. At the end of the day, she managed to get married, and I guess that's what matters, except of course for the mountain of debt she's now stuck with. And that's why my parents keep calling me. They're trying to make me feel guilty so that I'll help. They keep telling me that Janice is in a bad situation, and that as her older sister, it's my responsibility to take care of her. Look, I'm curiously wondering where that older sister role was during her wedding. Oh right, I wasn't invited because I'm not blood. They even had the audacity to tell me that I should let go of the past and be a better person. I actually laughed when they said that. I told them I'm not a doormat for them to walk all over when it suits them. Janice created this mess herself, and if she thought she could use me without consequences, she was very wrong. I also told them they should ask a blood relative for help instead of me. Then I hung up the phone. Honestly, it feels good to finally stand up for myself. My whole life I've been the forgotten one, the outsider they only turn to when they need something. But now they know I'm done. Janice is stuck with her mountain of debt, and my parents are begging me to help her, but I don't care. I'm done with them and their toxic behavior. Now they can deal with the mess they created. It's not my problem anymore. I think this is the end of my story. For the first time in a long time I feel closure, and I'm enjoying this newfound peace with my fiancé. Besides the constant ringing of my phone, but that's what the block button is for. Anyway, thank you all for your support during all this. Bye-bye. Update 3. Just when I thought it was over, I never imagined I'd be writing this update, but here we are, just a few days after the last one. My sister has reached new lows that I didn't even think were possible. After everything that happened, I thought I was done with all of this. But of course Janice had other plans. She wasn't going to let me walk away so easily. When I refused to help her with her debt, Janice must have been furious, blaming me for the situation she had gotten herself into. She decided to take things further and mess with me. The worst idea in her twisted mind? She thought she could get revenge on me. Honestly, it's almost ridiculous how miserably it all turned out. This is what happened. A few days after I told her no, Janice sent a bunch of fake photos to my fiancé Luke. Yes, she had the audacity to claim she had discovered me cheating on him the night before. She even pretended to be the concerned sister, apologizing to him for what her sister had done. She said she was ashamed to be related to someone who could betray him. And what did Luke do? Ignore the rage bubbling inside of me. This woman was trying to destroy the only good thing I have in my life. She needed to be put in her place once and for all. Initially, I hadn't planned to do anything in retaliation, but Janice left me no other option. Here's the thing. During the wedding preparations, I saw something that I kept to myself until now. I saw Janice kissing another man. Yes, she was making out with someone who wasn't her husband. I even took photos not because I wanted to ruin her marriage, but because I felt like something wasn't right. Right then I decided it wasn't my place to get involved. But now, after what she tried to do with Luke, why should I care about her marriage anymore? So I sent the photos to her husband, Peter, and told him everything. I didn't waste a second. By the end of the day, Janice was out of the house, and he had filed for divorce. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but what I do know is that they're over. Look, this isn't something I'm particularly proud of, but Janice left me no other choice. She started this war and I finished it. Now Janice is practically ruined. She tried to crawl back to our parents, but even they wouldn't take her back. They know that her debts would become their problem, and since she doesn't work, they would be the ones who would have to pay for everything. They've completely disowned her. As for where Janice is now, I have no idea. She's probably with some poor soul who doesn't yet realize what they've gotten themselves into. But honestly, I don't care. She wanted to play with fire, so I brought the napalm. Update 4. The first thing I want to say is that although my sister Janice has learned a valuable lesson about not messing with me, that doesn't mean she's figured out how to behave decently with the rest of the world. It seems her talent for creating chaos has no limits, and now she's decided to target our parents. No, not me this time. After her husband filed for divorce, Janice realized she was in a much worse situation than she had imagined. Not only was she drowning in a huge debt from the wedding, but she also needed to find a job urgently just to stay afloat. During all the years she lived in the comfort of not having to worry about things like working or managing money, she always counted on the help of my parents or her husband. But now that she's lost both sources of support, she's facing a reality she never thought she'd have to deal with. And this is where things get even more ridiculous. Instead of taking responsibility for her life, Janice has decided to sue our parents. Yes, you read that right. She's suing them, and the reason is so absurd that I promise you'll either laugh or get angry depending on how you look at it. According to Janice, my parents should have paid for the entire wedding because, as her biological parents, it was their duty. Her logic is that since my parents had her after years of infertility, they are supposedly responsible for her happiness, in this case her wedding. Yes, I know how crazy this sounds, but in her mind it's a brilliant plan. Janice is convinced that my parents forced her into taking out loans for the wedding, and is therefore blaming them for her debt. Basically, she's suing them to get back the money she borrowed, acting as if somehow they were responsible for her mess. I can only imagine the judge's reaction when they read her lawsuit. Honestly, I would pay just to be in the courtroom and see their faces as they try to process all this family drama. I can't imagine anything other than suppressed laughter at how ridiculous it all is. Let's be realistic. Janice was the one getting married, not my parents. If she wanted an extravagant wedding, she should have paid for it herself, or at least made smarter decisions. But she didn't. It doesn't even need to be mentioned that if she hadn't cheated on her husband, she wouldn't be in this situation. But of course, in Janice's world, everyone else is responsible for her bad decisions except her. The irony of all this is that in addition to demanding that my parents pay her wedding debt, she also insinuated that they should remove me from their will. At this point, I couldn't care less about their will. Honestly, I don't want anything from this family. I worked hard to build my own life, and I'm happy with what I have, far from all this chaos. So here I am, watching my sister sink deeper and deeper, dragging everyone around her into her spiral of problems, and all I can think is, thank God I'm no longer part of this circus. It's like watching from the outside as the monkeys run amok, causing chaos wherever they go. For those who are wondering, Janice's lawsuit went nowhere. The outcome was as obvious as expected.